So I'm just gonna try and make a little video on a illness called cystic fibrosis. I just thought I'd make the video today. I've been wanting to do it for quite a while. I thought I would try and do it today because I've seen a lot of coverage about the illness in the news recently, and there's been a lot of stuff about a new treatment which has been made called Orkambi for people with cystic fibrosis, as it's, you know, kind of the first drug which has been used and tried and errored and stuff, but it actually works. But it's not being made available for people that have the illness on the NHS. So I thought that today I would just talk a little bit about the illness itself, and then a little bit about the treatment Orkambi and how important that could be and is for us. Oh my god, I'm confusing myself already. For the people that have the illness. So a little bit about cystic fibrosis. So it is a chronic lung illness. It is genetic, so you can't catch it, you're born with it. It affects about 10,400 people in the UK. It is mostly known, I believe, for affecting sufferers' lungs and digestive system. So we produce a thick, sticky mucus which kind of clogs up all the small airways in our lungs, leading to lots of chest infections, and we can get a variety of different bugs as well, which just make our chest infections a bit worse and our lives a bit harder. So when we get chest infections, it's a bit different for someone without cystic fibrosis. So a cough or a cold for us could end up with us needing to stay in hospital to get strong treatment for the bugs in our chest that we've got because of the infections. So yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare. Digestive system, it really affects our pancreas. We don't really produce enzymes. We can get loads of different things, really. There's just so much that isn't really known. So you can get cystic fibrosis related diabetes is really common, osteoporosis, CF related arthritis, sinusitis, kidney damage, liver damage. There's just so many things that aren't really known about the illness, and I don't think, although the awareness of the illness is increasing, I don't think it's still at the level yet where it needs to be. You know, if you kind of say to somebody, oh, you have cystic fibrosis, they'll still, normally, for me anyway, the person will say, oh, what's that? Or they'll say, oh, isn't that where you have really thick mucus? And I'm just like, oh, well, no. I mean, we do, but we don't just have mucus. There's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, so yes, cystic fibrosis facts. I was diagnosed when I was about 9 years old, which is actually quite late to be diagnosed with the illness. But we found out I had it because I was always ill when I was younger. I was always coughing. I was really skinny. I had like little sparrow legs, everyone used to say. Great. Yeah, so little sparrow legs, and I was just always ill, coughing. I wouldn't ever put any weight on. It was just not very nice. Found out I had cystic fibrosis. I don't really remember being diagnosed with it because I was so young. I just kind of remember having to start loads of treatments and nebulizers, like vaporized antibiotics, tablets, and I had to do lots of physio. Physio is something that is very important for sufferers, as it is a airway clearance to get all the oxygen and air behind the mucus and excretions to get it up and clearing out all the infection, and therefore keeping our lungs open and the airflow coming in, keeping our lung function at a good level, so we can maintain our health, I guess, really. Yes, so there's all that. So we're on all the medication, all the tablets, but I think that the tablets and all the medications that we do now are just kind of preventatives for the inevitable. So you can do all the treatment in the world, you can do all your nebulizers, all your tablets, but at the end of the day, if you're going to get a chest infection, you're going to have one. You can't stop that, and you're probably going to end up in hospital at the end of that as well. So they're really good, and you know, treatments are forever advancing, and the CF Trust and all the research it's just come such a long way, and our quality of lives now is so much better. I don't know personally, but I can only imagine what it was like without all this treatment years and years ago, how awful it must have been. So people with the illness are living longer lives, their quality of lives are better, but there's still this underlying there's still this underlying fact that people with cystic fibrosis do suffer a lot still, and their life expectancy is still so much shorter than the average person. So I think now it's about 40 years old. I think the average life expectancy is for someone with cystic fibrosis, which is still really young. And also I think, I read somewhere, no, it was on the Cystic Fibrosis Trust, that last year in 2018 half of people with cystic fibrosis died before the age of 30, and to me that is just mind-blowing. And I know that life expectancy being shorter is such a big thing with the illness, but I try not to think about it. I try and stay positive with my illness, because there's no point in thinking, oh, you know, by the time I'm 28 I could be needing oxygen, or I could be needing a lung transplant, or, you know, I might not even be here. But what's the point in thinking like that? Because, you know, the treatments that they're doing these days, and it just might not be that way. So that brings me on to the newish treatment that has been made, which is called Orkambi. So Orkambi is this new magical drug for people with cystic fibrosis, in that it doesn't really treat the effects of the illness. It kind of gets straight to the root of the problem, the cause, and it has been proven dramatically to increase the quality of life of sufferers, and also the lung function of the sufferers, which is the main reason why we suffer so much. Basically, we just can't breathe. It's really not that nice, and it's horrible feeling the effects as you get older. So, you know, where 4 years ago I'd probably go into hospital, no, 5 years ago I'd go into hospital once a year. Now I'm 23 years old, I probably go into hospital 5 or 6 times a year. Last year I was in hospital 6 times, and that was a total of 3.5 months of my life spent in hospital. Oops, sorry, just come from my phone. 3 months in hospital, 3.5 months of my life in hospital, and it's just not nice. And like, now knowing that there is a drug out there which can stop this and help us and help all the sufferers out there with our invisible illness, but it's not being given to us, it's not being put on the NHS, it just leaves me speechless. And I know that things cost money, and I know that the NHS is struggling as it is, but surely they would save more money in giving all the sufferers this treatment, which will save their lives, rather than spending all the money on the tablets, the treatments, the IV antibiotics, the hospital admissions, lung transplants. Surely they would save so much more money in the big scheme of things if they just did this. I don't know, I know everything's relevant, and I know some people won't agree with me with things that I've said, but to me, I just personally feel like cystic fibrosis is really ignored, and because it's such an invisible illness, you can't see it all the time. You can only really see it when you're ill, and even then people say, oh, you look so great, or God, it's just so hard to believe that, you know, you're really ill. But on the inside, if you could see everything, if you could see the lung damage, if you could see how much you were struggling emotionally as well, it's so hard emotionally trying to keep up with a normal life, trying to do everything when you're tired. And, you know, I'm good today, I could wake up tomorrow and I could have a really bad chest day. It's horrible not being able to breathe half the time, but it's even more horrible knowing that there is this treatment out there, this life-saving treatment that is there, but we can't have it. It's just, it's really frustrating. And the fact that it is a degenerative illness, we only have, you know, we're constantly trying our best to keep our lung function up, to keep a normal, happy, healthy life. We're always fighting for that. It's always a fight for people with cystic fibrosis. And, you know, as time goes on, our lung functions will just naturally decrease anyway, but Orkambi won't get your lung function back. It can only work on what you've got, so it needs to be given to people now. And yeah, while people can still have it, like all the young people, all the children, the babies with it, all the adults who are really struggling and have been struggling for years with it. Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm rambling, but I just wanted to make this video because it's hurtful, it's horrible being ignored and just feeling like you don't have a voice. So I try, whenever I go into hospital, I try and post as much stuff as I can about the illness and about my treatments and IVs and my mycobacterium bug I have, which is, you know, quite a bad bug in CF world. It's just not a great one. And all the little things like that, the fact that we can't talk to each other, people with cystic fibrosis can't come into contact with each other because we could make each other ill with our bugs, and just all these little things. But yeah, I just wanted to shed some light on the illness itself, and you know, obviously this new drug that is now being made but not given.